You know what time it is. You know what time it is.
How firm thy friendship. Oh,
you know what time it is. Come brawl with them boys of the fall. You know what time it is. On the ground with a nose for the ball. You know what time it is. Blood, sweat, and them tears for this game. Leaving it all out on the field with no fear for you lames. Yeah, you know what time it is. Come brawl with them boys of the fall. Covered in gray and scarlet, massive, stiff arms to your jaw. We breaking it. We sick of seeing you clowns with the crown. We taking it.
What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Buckeye Boys, where we talk about college football with real fans. I'm Devin. That's Mello. And tonight we are honored and blessed to have Monica Daniels with us. Monica, how are you tonight?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your listeners and viewers. Thank you for reaching out.
Yeah, not a problem. Chat, you guys know what to do, man. Hit that like button. Take a moment, share this feed on your X account, your Instagram, your Facebook, and whatever else you guys use out there now. Mello, how's your day been, man?
Man, it's good. Busy, running my daughter around, but can't complain. She's a blessing, so you'll never hear me complain about it.
Amen. Amen, man. Monica, so me and Mello, we're super passionate about recruiting. A little bit of a backstory for you. I went through some troubles when I was younger, and a ministry called Teen Challenge saved my life. And Mello is in the middle
Praise
of
God.
recruitment with his daughter and stuff like that.
Over. She committed.
Well, he was in the middle of it. So anyway, long story short, we're very passionate about recruiting. We love seeing, these young men and who they're surrounded by and how that affects their decision and how they got to where they're at and stuff like that. So needless to say, you have got brought up a lot in a lot of our conversations with what you have done for Ohio State and obviously what your son did for Ohio State playing here. So, it's a blessing to be able to talk to you right now and get some of your insight and things like that. So I just wanted to share that with you real quick.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to speak about my family and about Ohio State football. So both are near and dear to my heart.
Amen. I love it. Well, let's dive into it. Not that long ago, you went through this process yourself with your son. Doesn't really need an introduction to Buckeye Nation, but, Paris Johnson, the offensive tackle, the number one offensive tackle in the nation and whatnot. I just went back and refreshed myself on his recruitment, but I remember, kind of how that went. And, can you just kind of run that process through with us and what it was like back then through the recruitment? Because I know you guys were still dealing with, you still have to make that decision. You still have to, shuffle through all types of different variables that's going to decide where you send your son to school at as a parent. And one of the big things that we see, and it's a pattern we see with recruits, is when we talk to these recruits, you can tell, especially ones at Ohio State's recruiting, they got a good head on their shoulders, but behind the scenes is always a phenomenal support group, a phenomenal mom, a phenomenal dad, or something like that, teaching them and guiding them through the process. So just take us back a little bit and walk us through how that process was for you.
Oh my goodness. It feels like yesterday. It truly does, because Paris's journey started in, I would say, May of 2017. So he was a freshman when he received his first offer. And again, it feels like yesterday, because now Paris is about to enter into his third season as an Arizona Cardinal, which I still cannot believe. And it was such a growing time for us during that experience. And so when Paris received his first offer, like I said, as a freshman in high school, we were ecstatic. Listen, we were just on cloud nine, and we were just excited about what was to come. Folks may not know, but when Paris received his first offer, he was playing defense. He played defensive end, and he didn't start playing offensive line until his sophomore year of high school. And so when the first offer came in, the coach at that time shared with us that this was an offer for offensive linemen. And so Paris and I were like, wait a minute, offensive lineman? I play defensive end. And so they shared with us that the way that college was going with offensive linemen, that Paris had to build of an offensive lineman. And so, and that was the direction. And so at that point, you know, Paris was excited for the offer, and Paris just wanted an opportunity to play at the next level. And the next level for us and our family was college. And so I know that was something that was important to him. And so Paris ended up getting help to play offensive line, because he only played defense from little league all the way up through his freshman year in high school. And so when he started training for offensive line, that started the summer going into his sophomore year, and he trained with future Hall of Famer, I'm putting in an atmosphere, Willie Anderson, that played over 12, 13 years with the Cincinnati Bengals. And so Paris started training with him. And then once he started training with him, the doors just blew open for Paris, and he went from one offer within 10 months to 50 offers. And so when I say the door just swung open, it did. It was a whirlwind for us. Again, we had to learn during that process with recruiting, and it was a great experience.
Well, with all that being said, what was the process like? What were you guys looking for in terms of choosing the right school and the right fit for you guys as a family?
Great question. So my background is that I'm a high school college counselor. And so I had Paris write out his ideal school, and I had him create a rubric, so that way we can stay on task with the schools. So once the offers started coming in, Paris started comparing those schools to his ideal school. And so quickly the list of 50 schools trickled down to 28. And then once we got to 28 schools, we broke that down by regions. Then we started to take a look at, within the last 5 years, where have offensive linemen, if they're playing at the next level, where are they going? And also, not only where are they going, but are they still playing in the NFL? So then we dove a little bit deeper and started doing research on each school in regards to development. The education piece was a no-brainer for me. Paris was going to get his degree. That was important to our family because I'm a first generation college graduate. So I wanted to make sure that Paris got his degree. So that box was already checked for us. So at that point, we needed to move forward on development, because that was important to me, because Paris at that time had only been playing offensive line for 1 year. So I wanted to make sure that Paris would be at an institution that would help develop him. The offers were amazing. And of course, you mentioned that Paris was number one in his position, number one in the state of Ohio, number 7 nationally, which are great accolades. But I know that that's not enough to develop you and to get you to the next level. And plus, I wanted Paris to be prepared when he walked out on the field. And so that was important. So once we went through the questions, we went through the rubric, and then after we dug deep into where the offensive linemen are going after they leave the institution and how successful they are, then the next step for us at that point was taking a look at what translated to the NFL. I wanted to make sure that Paris was in a pro-style offense, because I know that a pro-style offense is what helps and will help him make that huge leap to the next level. And so that narrowed that down even more, because as you know, not every institution runs a pro-style offense. And with Paris playing tackle, I needed to make sure that he had all the tools to be able to pass pro, not just run block, but most importantly, to be able to pass pro. So that part was extremely important to us.
Yeah. And you know, there's the like basis of recruiting that hasn't changed and will never go away, and that's all the things you just spoke on: the education, the development, the relationship that you have with these guys. But you know, obviously recruiting has changed now. When you bring NIL into the equation and the transfer portal with how it's all going now, things are different. And that brings up a huge topic in the recruiting world right now of like, man, how much support do these kids need around them? How much should a parent get involved? What kind of decisions should the parent step in and say, hey, no, right? I will help you make this decision. So, you know, times might be a little bit different, but it's still the same. They say the same core message here of, hey man, I want my kid to become a good man, a good leader, a good husband, a good father, and a good football player, right? So
Absolutely.
can you kind of speak on that and how much you were involved? Because it sounds like you were involved immensely, which I believe is even more important these days than it was then. It's still very important, but when you throw money into the equation, man, it puts kids in situations where they can get themselves in a lot of trouble or a lot of success. Either way. So speak on that a little bit. How much were you involved, and how much do you feel like other parents should be involved, especially these days?
No, great. Another amazing question. For us, it was a family decision, and I encourage parents to make it a family decision because it does impact the entire family. So not only did it impact myself, but it impacted my daughter Sydney as well because of the sacrifices that she made to be able to support her brother as she went through this process. And so it's important that it's a great fit for the entire family. And again, like I mentioned, the education, the development, but then it's also important to spend time with the staff. So I was very intentional with spending time with the staff at Ohio State, getting to know them because I knew that Paris would spend more time with those men than he would with myself. And so that part was important. I also encourage Paris to spend time with guys in the locker room because those are going to be his brothers. And again, he's going to spend more time with them than his younger sister. So it was important to get around those guys. And then also I wanted to spend time with the kids that was in the locker room with their parents because they raised them. So I really wanted to get to know the parents as well. And Ohio State does an amazing job of, as you said before, the culture is amazing. It's a true brotherhood. It's great kids on the team. And that's not by accident because there's great parents that raised them. And that was important to our family as well because I wanted to make sure that Paris was going into a place where he can grow as a man, he can grow as a man of God, because Paris is very strong in his faith, and also other opportunities besides just football. I wanted Paris to have a well-rounded experience. Not sure if your listeners are familiar with Real Life Wednesday. That's at Ohio State, which helps develop the boys outside of football, helping to build a resume. And so Paris took full advantage of that. He interned with the NFL Network. Paris wrote for the school paper. He's published over 8 articles. So he was just very intentional or grabbing hold of things that will help him also outside of football. And so those are things that I encourage parents to take a look at. And our family, we're about family. Like we love people. We enjoy being around people. And so I knew that Paris needed to be an environment where he can feel like a sense of family and it didn't feel corporate, but a sense of family, a sense of community. And Coach Day allowed that. And it was real and it's authentic. And I remember during a recruiting time, I would just show up. Sometimes I would show up unannounced because I really wanted to kind of see what was going on in the Woody. And I would just show up and they'll be like, hey, Monica. And they'll just welcome me into team meetings, position meetings, and so practice. And guess what? They were consistent the entire time. And so those are the things that I encourage parents to do as I tell my story. And then slow down the process. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to rush it. Just take the time to get to know people because I told Paris, if you're going to do something, you're going to give 110% to it. You're going to be dedicated to it. So transfer portal, that wasn't even an option in our family. We did not talk about that. That's not something that we even entertained because Paris wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than himself. He wanted to build a legacy at Ohio State. And he says, Mom, I want to be able to bring my future grandkids back and show them, hey, this is what I did and brag about how great I was, even though they wouldn't probably believe me. So those things are important.
Yes, they are. So I wanted to ask something a little bit on the lighter side. So there's this folklore or this rumor out there that it came down to the team up north in Ohio State. And that's something. Yeah. And that's something. No. Oh, no? So that's not true?
No. Oh, no. Well, I could tell you the story, but it wasn't down to the team up north in Ohio State. Never.
Okay.
So no, Georgia, LSU, and Ohio State.
Yes. So what was your question? I want to hear it so that way I could tell the story.
Oh, supposedly you went there and they didn't have any detailed plan for your son, how they were going to develop him and
Yes,
for his future. Is there any
yes.
truth to that? And how did you
That
respond to them if that was true?
Yes, that was true. So before NIL, I should say, um, you had your unofficial visits, and that's something that we had to pay for. And at the time, as a single mother, I was paying for all those unofficial visits. And so I wanted to make sure that when I went out to an institution, that they treated it like an official visit, meaning that I want all my questions answered. I want to be able to meet with different individuals. I want parents to meet with not just with the coaches, but with potential teammates. And just in case, if it's not a good fit, I'm not coming back. So I
Hmm.
want to make sure that I was taking full advantage of that opportunity. So I forward my questions ahead of time to all my meetings. I will send them to the position coach. I will give them all my questions, and I will let them, to let them know those are the things that I wanted to cover ahead of time. And I had my handy notebook. So I had a notebook I took on every visit with me and just taking my notes. And then also I asked them if they can pull up Paris's film in high school and show me how they can develop him. And I wanted them to show me what he needed to work on. I didn't want to hear about all the amazing things he was doing correctly, because that, he was a 5-star. So I didn't want that. I wanted to know, what can you help develop? And is it going to translate to the NFL? And then show me who you put in the NFL and how successful they are right now. So those are the things that I was asking. And then I also said, I need you to show me how you're going to utilize Paris. So bring up some of your film and show me how you're going to utilize Paris, because I needed to make sure he was going to be developed. And so they dropped the ball. Team Up North dropped the ball. They didn't answer any of my questions. They didn't do anything that I asked them to do. So Paris and my daughter Sydney and I were in the meeting, and the coach at the time was Ed Warner, was the
Yep.
coach. He was the O-line coach at the time, and so he didn't answer any of my questions. And so I raised my hand to interrupt, so I can kind of go back to the questions that I had. So I went back to my notebook and wanted to go over the questions that I'd asked. He didn't want to answer those questions. He wanted to go through his presentation. And it was Paris that stood up for me. And Paris was like, Coach, my mom has questions that she would like you to answer, and you haven't answered those questions. So I would love for you to address my mother and answer her questions. And he just wouldn't answer the questions because he wasn't prepared. So
Mhm.
I told him at that point, meeting's over. I said, I'm paying for this visit. Meeting is over. And I got up and I left.
Man,
I,
good for
I don't
you.
mean to,
Yeah.
I don't mean to laugh. I just,
Yeah.
obviously you said they dropped the ball. That seems to be a
Yeah.
pattern with them here lately. But listening to you talk, so we do a Pops Pod show as well with Duke, Pettijohn, and Daniel Sanchez.
Yes. I
Yeah,
love
yeah, yeah. So
Julie, his wife, Julie. We went to high school together. We went to Princeton
yeah,
together.
she told me. Yeah, she
Yep.
told me
Yes.
that. So we really dive into this recruiting thing. Like, I have learned so much about how much parents are involved in the true ins and outs, the good, the bad, and the
Yes.
ugly of recruiting. And it's opened my eyes to, like, when I sit back and I see Ohio State not getting players or this happening, I've really slowed down on my judgment on wanting to be
Yes.
like, what is going on? Because there's so many things.
It's
But
more
listening to
to
you
it.
talk,
It's more to
yes,
it.
there is. But I mean, it sounds like, I don't know if I could like write a blueprint from what I have learned. I do have zero experience in it, but from talking to so many people that do, sounds like you got a pretty good plan in place, and you handled the recruiting process beautifully. But
Thank you.
I know we had an order of the show that I talked about before. I'm going to switch it up a little bit because
Okay.
I just feel like it goes perfectly with this. Can you kind of explain? You know, to our listeners, how you are still involved in the Ohio State program, because I know you are, and I can see why now, because I
Yeah.
mean, just the process that you use, definitely now that you add nil into the equation, your process you did back then now becomes so much more important in my eyes, with
Hmm.
everything that's going on. Not that it wasn't important then,
Yes.
but you understand there's another factor in this that is throwing kids for a loop these days. So can you kind of fill us in on how you're still involved in the program?
Well, my involvement, I feel that I'm an honorary Buckeye. I'm not a graduate of Ohio State. Of course, Paris is a graduate, and my daughter is going into her junior year at Ohio State. But I feel like an honorary Buckeye. I'm very, very grateful to be connected to the program and to the staff at Ohio State. And so my role is just to be able to be a support to parents that are going through the recruiting process, to be able to support them, answer any questions that they may have, and also work as a liaison between the parents that are currently still here at Ohio State, and just to be there to support them and answer any questions that they may have. I was very active with the parent association here at Ohio State, so I'm still very close to that association, again, as a resource and a support, just to bounce ideas off of. And of course, I'm biased, so I can't help it. I'm biased. Ohio State has been amazing to our family. And so that's the role that I have, just strictly there to be a resource and
Yeah.
support parents as they go through this process.
Yeah, Mello, sorry, I just got to ask a follow-up
No, go ahead.
question. That it just rolls into it perfectly. But on that note, you keep bringing up parents, right? And we know, or us fans, we always hear about the brotherhood that the players have
Oh my
inside the
gosh.
facility. The other side, I'm learning about this, is the connection that is built between the parents. Can
Yes.
you describe, number one, like how that was for you, right, when your son
Yes.
played at Ohio State? And like the importance of that. It's not just a player brotherhood, but I've noticed these parents, man, I went on a couple to games this year, and I showed up, and the parents invited me to their
Yes.
couple of their, what do you call
Tailgates.
them, cookouts, tailgates. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, they are close. They are all together in one
No,
unit.
it's true. It's a very close group, something very unusual, honestly. And I didn't realize how special it is until Paris became a pro. And that's when I realized that there's something special in Columbus, especially with the parents. And so just really quickly, so when I came to Ohio State with Paris, he early enrolled in January 2020. Then March, we were hit with a global pandemic. And during that time, our parent group, we did community service. I was introduced to community service with the parent group. We did things together. We supported not just our sons, but the coaches as well. But then when COVID happened, and then our season briefly was taken away from us, we had to band together. And it wasn't about baking brownies and grilling out at that point. It was, we had to come together and be a voice for Buckeye Nation, not just our sons, not just our coaches, not the AD staff, but also to be a voice for Buckeye Nation. And our parent group came together. And I think because of that experience with COVID and fighting for a season, that made us stronger than ever, because we had to really get out there and advocate and fight for a season. And it was a lot of the freshman parents, surprisingly. There were some upperclassmen parents, but mainly a lot of the freshman parents were the ones that got out there and hit the pavement like, wait a minute, our kids want to have a season. And so I'm very grateful we were able to help restore that little small piece we had to help restore a season. But that started us being even closer as a unit and closer as a team with the players, with the coaches. We all came together. And so not only do the parent group love to hang out and have a great time, but they travel together, do community service events together. And then also the amazing thing, the parents that taught me this was Jackie Jordan. Her son is Michael Jordan. And he left in I want to say he graduated in 2019. And then also Ezekiel Elliott's mom, Dawn, very, very supportive. So those two ladies were the ones that supported me and pushed me in the background. It's been a resource to me that taught me. And then from there, I was able to then carry that torch and now be a support to the other amazing moms and dads that are Ohio State. And guess what, guys? It doesn't end here at Ohio State. It translates to the NFL. So Paris's first game as a rookie, he played the Commanders. And so my husband and I and my sorority sister and her husband and even Coach Stud came to the game. So we're at the game and I'm crying. I'm a crybaby, just so you guys know. I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad.
That's all right.
Right. So I'm crying because Paris he's walking out on the field, and there is Chase Young and Terry McLaurin. They didn't
Yeah.
even play with Paris, but they were around when Paris was being recruited. They welcomed my son with open arms, and I'm crying. And I told my husband, I said, "Oh my gosh, the brotherhood is real, it's real, it's real." And then even the parents, they reached out. And so when Buckeyes play each other on Sundays, Saturdays, us Buckeye parents get together. You guys may not know that. So we get together the night
cool.
before as Buckeyes. It doesn't matter if our son's on opposing teams. We're Buckeyes. So we get together and hang out and support each other Saturday night before the game. So it's such something very rare and unusual. And like I said, I didn't see that until Paris became a pro, and I'm around other pro moms from other schools, and they were like, something different about y'all Buckeyes. We don't do that at our school.
So that's awesome. So I would assume that you, after players commit to Ohio State, even currently, that you'll still continue that connection with their parents and their families.
Absolutely.
So that's always a good thing. So the parenthood, we need a terminology.
That's right. I like that. The Buckeye parenthood. I like
that. You got that's a real thing. So we're gonna start telling parents about that as well.
Yeah, you just made that up right here today.
Yeah. So I got an NIL question. Being at Ohio State, have you seen NIL affecting recruiting negatively for the Buckeyes in terms of kids flipping or decommitting their commitment? And how would you say Coach Day is handling that?
Oh, wow. Well, let me say this. When I'm meeting with parents, I don't talk NIL with parents. So if it is brought to me, that's something that I encourage them to go back and speak to the collectives about, because I told parents I'm still old school. I went through the process when there was no NIL, and then once NIL was in effect, Paris' sophomore year, Paris had to hit the ground running and had to go out there and find his own funds. So this process is still new to me as well. So I defer parents, if it is brought to my attention, to go have those conversations with the collectives. But Coach Day, what I appreciate about him is that he keeps the main thing the main thing. And the main thing for him is making sure that this is a good culture, that kids are going to get their degree and they're going to be developed. And that message is sent throughout the entire facility. And this is just my opinion, if someone is walking in there and they want to strictly talk about NIL, that I don't think Ohio State is the place for them, because that's not the language that Coach Day speaks. Again, he's about culture. He's about kids getting their degree and about development and family. So I'm not a part of those conversations. And I'm grateful that I'm not a part of those conversations.
I hear you, but that makes us feel good as Buckeye Nation, because Dev and I have been invoking out there that the culture is the best culture in America. If you look at the APR, because I know there's some people out here and some like podcasters, big time podcasters, that all they look at is winning and losing and determining if that's a good culture. If you're winning, then you have a great culture, even though you might be getting arrested a million times or crashing cars and stuff.
Yeah.
But to me, it's the highest APR score for a Division I football program, and doing it twice, back-to-back years. It's the fact of the revivals on campus. It's the testimonies that these kids are doing every day. To me, that's the culture. It's not just winning. If you have a solid culture like that and it goes to the field, that's great. If you lose, okay, it's just a game. But in terms of life, that's where I get culture. I was in the military. So to me, I take a different aspect and perspective on this, as opposed to other people that might be career podcasters or media members. Like, it's not all about winning on the field. It's about winning in life and being alive. If I send my kid off to college, I expect them in 4 years to still be living at 21, 22 years old.
Absolutely.
So I just think people are glazing over that. And that's why there's not a lot of accountability around the country in general, because you're just pumping these guys up because they're winning some football games, but yet families are mourning or people are in jail or they're detriment to the community. And we're not seeing that at Ohio State. And Columbus is a big city. You're not hearing about our kids getting arrested, going to jail, out running from cops and stuff. So to me, that's what, in my opinion, makes Coach Day the best coach in America, period.
No, I absolutely. No, I agree. I agree with that. And guess what? And And again, you can take a look at the parents and you can see that that's something that they're taught at home. Those kids are raised correctly. And that is something Coach Day looks at. So not only is he spending time with the kids, but they are being intentional with spending time with the parents, because you and I both know that, what do they say? The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So so that is important. And again, like I said, for me, that was important for me because I wanted to know who Paris was spending time with in that locker room. So I was intentional with getting to know the parents because I wanted to make sure that Paris was going to be around great men.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I'm telling you, me and Melo, we're new to this. We, just this year we've been interviewing a lot of these recruits that Ohio State has offered, and that some Ohio State has landed some of them. We spoke to several of the freshmen, interviewed them, and I'm serious. Not one of them that we have interviewed have we questioned whether they have a good support group or good parents or not, because. And listen, I know it's not a requirement to like believe in Jesus or anything to play at Ohio State, that, your belief is your belief, but that's a pattern with these recruits that we hear, that they're talking about Jesus. They're talking about the faith. But it's not just that, it's the mentality that they have, the developmental side. None of them are answering when we ask, what's the most important thing to you? Nil doesn't even get brought up at all. You know what I mean? It's the brotherhood and stuff. And, I'm so intrigued with how Ryan Day is able to do this in today's world, dealing with athletes that are first round draft picks. Like that is the minority is what Ryan Day is doing. The majority is you get this money, you get this fame, you get this, the love of money is the root of all evil. So that is a very hard fight to fight. And the fact that Ryan Day is able to do this, it honestly blows my mind. Such a big organization, so many people are involved. And so I would just like to hear about the consistency of this thing. So you're involved with him now. You were involved with him back then. Can you tell us about that? Is that, when you first came to Ohio State, what was the culture? And when you go around Ohio State now, what's the culture?
Oh, the culture, number one, let me say this. When I first walked in the Woody, it's a spirit of excellence. It's truly a spirit of excellence. And you want to be excellent. You want to be elite. And so that is the spirit, that is the culture that's in place there. And listen, I know you feel it when you walk in there. It's just a spirit of excellence. And that's what Coach Day preaches, and he's there. And guess what? Not every athlete that walks in there is going to go first round. Not everyone even is going to get drafted. And guess what? He still wants to support them and help them get to their level of excellence. And that's what it's all about. And he has an open door policy. So he's very open and transparent with the kids, also with parents as well. There was never a time where Coach Day has ever turned me away. So just always open and very receptive. And I also love how you spoke about the kids just being on fire for Christ.
Yes.
And that's something that was important to Paris and I when we went through this process, is being around other believers that truly love God. And that was something that Coach Day allows the boys to walk in their relationship with Christ. Their faith is very important to them, and it's welcome there. And it's not shunned, but it's celebrated. Something that is truly celebrated, and it carries with these young men. So now they're taking this and they're able to go to other cities and continue to spread the love of God. And so that's, to me, it's just something powerful and beautiful.
That's amazing. But I wanted to get on a little bit of a lighter note. So we call them the Arizona Buckeyes around here, right?
Yes.
They love
More
us.
Buckeyes to the desert. That's my hashtag.
Absolutely. Oh, I like that. That's a good one. I might start using that. Buckeyes to the desert.
To the desert.
So I want to keep it light. We know they just drafted a team up north cornerback to Arizona. There's a lot of Buckeyes there.
Yes.
Over under 20 times this season that they're going to take some shots at him for being a team up north player.
Oh my gosh. Listen, it's going to be ongoing. They're going to be playing with that back and forth the entire season. So just follow the Arizona Cardinals, because I promise you there's going to be different videos where they're going to be taking jabs at each other and just having fun and celebrating that. So yes, it's coming.
Yes, I don't
It's
expect
already
anything
started
less.
today. It already started today.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's already started today.
Man, that is so awesome. And it's also awesome, besides the fact that he's a team up north player, but he is a legit, really good DB.
He is.
And
No, he
now
really is.
I think it's really going to help Marvin out because he's going to be going against him. And then when he gets tired of cooking him, he could go ahead and take his shot with Denzel Burke, who's also phenomenal. So
Yes,
I like the
yes.
pickups, to be honest with you. I'm glad that they're giving our boys opportunity.
Me
So
too.
I can't wait to watch what they do this season.
Listen, I'm so excited for this upcoming season. Like, I am so blessed that we are Cardinals. Like, I love the Arizona Cardinals. And so I'm excited about what they're building and what they're putting in place. And even we have Coach Fry out there. So I'm
Yes.
excited about Coach Fry being back with Paris and Josh Fryer. So that's going to be so much fun. And Paris and Josh can play together again because they came in together. Paris came
Yeah.
in with Cody too. So I'm excited about them being back together. And Denzel, he's such an amazing athlete and he gets to go back home. So it's beautiful for him because
Yep.
he's back at home. So, and I don't know if you guys read somewhere, but someone interviewed him about being back in Arizona, and he spoke about being a little guy and having to get tickets in the nosebleed just to go to the stadium. And so the very stadium that he had to sit in the nosebleed, he gets to play
That's
on.
cool.
How dope is that?
That's so
How
amazing.
how
That is
dope is that?
phenomenal. You know?
That's
So
what God does, man.
yes, and you know what? Because
That's
God
cool.
gives you glimpses of your future. He gives you glimpses of your futures, little nuggets to keep you going. And so, I mean, I'm so excited for the guys. I can't wait to celebrate with them. I've already celebrated with their moms already,
Yeah.
and just super excited. But then I have to say this, and I know this is not a question you asked, but I have to share this.
Share it,
Is
please.
that when Paris, I just want you all to know that Coach Day does an amazing job of getting these guys to be ready. I had several conversations with the moms that just went through the draft process, and their sons know the playbook. They know the playbook.
Mm.
And so Paris knew the playbook on day one. So when he
Mm.
walked in there, Paris said, Mom, I just have to just work on building relationships with the men in the locker room because Coach Day prepared me for this offense. And so that has been being said for the last couple of weeks that parents, as we talk, parents are like commenting like, oh my gosh, my son knows his playbook. Thank you, Coach Day. Thank you. My son can just walk in here and know his job and can be able to perform his job.
I
And
think
I don't
that's
know how
very
many
underrated.
institutions can say
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, Ohio State fan base, we're absolutely crazy. Okay, so we know this, but so we take crap all the time because everybody's always like, "Well, you guys think you're the best at everything." Like when
Because
me and
we
Mello go,
are.
Thank you.
I mean, listen, it's just like, okay, well, go look at the NFL, go see out of all the position groups, Ohio State is in at least the top 5 or top 3 of every position group in the NFL and is number 1 in several of them. I mean,
Yes.
Ohio State fans went on this offensive line thing for a while about why are we not? Do you guys understand how many offensive linemen Ohio State has in the NFL right now? Like it's
Yes.
the list is very, very big. So I mean, it speaks to that. And Ryan Day has been able to keep that up forever. And that's just one of the attributes that when you get to the NFL, you are ready. And it's been so
That's
cool
right.
to hear because, it always gets thrown off on Ohio State fans. They're just crazy, right? When we say things like, this is the best developmental place, this is that. But like, all these actions and all these outcomes of situations, they back these statements up. Like this is real. And we saw a really good example of it last year. I want to get your take on what the team went through last year and what it was like, as a Buckeye. By the way, earlier you were like, I think I'm an honorary Buckeye. Let me tell you something. You're a Buckeye. You get
Yep.
talked about a lot. You are
Yes, you are.
a famous Buckeye. Buckeye Nation absolutely loves you. So you've been called the queen of the Buckeye Moms
Yep.
in the chat like 10 times already. So
And that's what everybody
Oh,
refers to you in all the chats, whether it's
really?
yeah, no,
Oh,
really,
I had no
seriously.
clue.
yeah.
We love
Yeah,
you
they
because
do.
you're the point person for these families when they're like, your role is so immense in terms of these kids committing to us, and you're like the first line of vetting. And I'm sure you might have ran into a couple of crazy parents throughout this process. I don't know how you deal with it, but like, you have a major role on the success of this team. So you're absolutely 100% a Buckeye.
Oh, thank you.
So what was it like? I know what it was like as a fan, right? I know you're a fan too, but you're also way more than just a fan at this point in time. But watching them, I was at Autzen when they lost that first game to Oregon. I watched the rivalry game. I heard the fan base afterwards, but then you watch what they did in the Tennessee. Me and Mello went to the next Oregon game. It was one of the most exciting football games I've ever watched in my life. Then I went to the Texas game, and Jack Sawyer. I was there too. I was like, dude, this is wild. Then I went to the Notre Dame game, and I was like, this is real right now. But all the underlying backstory of all this with the faith and the baptisms on campus and the fan base saying, I don't want a soft team that believes in this. And, part of the other fan base, you guys are wild for saying that. There was so much behind this team, and they had to dig down deep and find something. So, right, with you being connected, walk us through, like, what was it like watching this, and what was your take on the whole outcome of last year's season?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to be honest with you. I knew they were going to win it all. I knew. And the reason why I knew it, and even Paris, we talked about it at the beginning of the season, is because we knew it was going to be their faith in God that were going to get them through. We knew it. And so, and sometimes you need to have those bad times, because that's how you grow. That's how you grow. And you can push through. And also it keeps you humble. It helps keeps you humble. And so I would say for me, I saw the team really dig in together, especially at the team up north loss. Yeah. They came together like never before and dug down deep and loved each other through it, held each other accountable, and they did it for each other and the love of God. That's what got them through. So trust me, I had no doubt. It didn't matter what the score was, what the record was. I knew they were going to win it all. I knew. I had all the faith in the world. I was cool as a cucumber.
I love it.
So I knew.
I guess our question really is, a lot of the fan base were calling them soft because they worship Jesus openly. Me and Dev, we have a different perspective. When you're playing for the glorification of the Lord, you're going to play harder. You're going to be tougher. You're going to hit harder. So we wanted you to kind of, I guess, speak to that in terms of Buckeye Nation calling our team soft because they worship Jesus.
But you know what? That did not impact the guys. That did not impact them at all. They wasn't moved by that. They didn't care. And the reason why I feel that way is when I'm communicating with their parents in the way that I have raised both my children, is that this platform is for the glory of God.
Yes.
That God is giving you this platform so you can speak about the goodness of God, and so you can put love in the world, so you can serve others and speak up for those who can't speak up for themselves. So that didn't bother the guys. I saw that too. That didn't move me. No one was affected by what the naysayers had to say. No one cared about that because they knew that this was bigger than them. And this platform was about glorifying God and redirecting folks to Christ. And that's all they cared about, each other and their love of God. Absolutely.
And that just shows you the level of their faith, because the word says that if you're going to share in God's glory, you must also share in his suffering. And that suffering comes in so many different forms. But I mean, dude, speaking of my life personally, like I've been through, addicted to drugs, prison, the whole thing. But, a lot of people are like, do you ever regret those times? And I'm like, not at all. I needed to go through those times to allow the Lord to form me into who I am now. Like I would be nowhere near that. So, when you go through tough times with Jesus by your side, it's on purpose. He's forming you so you can handle situations. And you know what they did? They all just went to the NFL. And if you think that you're not going to deal with some stuff in the NFL, you go from a a college atmosphere that is a little bit business style, but it's mainly about becoming a man. And then you go to the NFL that's strictly business. People don't care,
Absolutely.
they don't care about your feelings. They don't care.
No.
You don't perform, you're off the team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We don't want to have a counseling session and ask how you're doing. If you're not performing,
the truth.
You're off the team. So them going through that, they're preparing them. The Lord is preparing them to deal with things they're about to have to deal with in this. But we'll start wrapping up a little bit here.
Okay.
I want to get into the more general aspect of college football real fast, but I got one more question for you. This year's Ohio State team, what's your expectations? Let's hear it. Call your shot.
Yeah, that's what we wanted you here for.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Right now, my focus right now is on week 1. That's our focus, is because, listen, the guys have to come out and hit the ground running coming up against Texas.
Yep.
So my focus is on week 1. So just my thing has been supporting the guys and praying for them and being there for them as they prepare for week 1. So I'm just focused on week 1.
You've been hanging around Coach Day, huh? No, I just say that. I'm sorry. No, that's the truth. I mean, you just spoke the absolute truth, that there's no other option there for, team and coaches. You can't sit there and, look ahead. That doesn't get you anywhere in life. But, like I said, we'll start to wrap up here. We appreciate your time, but can you give us your overall thoughts? Obviously, college football has changed, money and all this, and it's caused a bunch of confusion. A lot of people hate it. I believe it's a blessing, but it's just like anything. Depends on how you use it. It can be a blessing or it can be a curse, just like anything in life. The internet's a blessing, but by God, you can make it a curse real fast. So speak to us about how you think college football is now and where you see it going in the future.
Oh, wow. That's a deep question.
Yeah,
right
sorry.
Now, no, that's okay. In light of NIL, like you, I believe it's a wonderful opportunity for the young men and women and their parents. It's a wonderful opportunity. Our family, when NIL was made available, it was a sophomore year. And so my husband and I, we wanted to use it as a learning experience for Paris. And so the money that Paris got from his NIL, his sophomore year and junior year at Ohio State, we put all of Paris's money in a trust because we wanted him to know that was for him. And our job as his parents was to take care of him regardless of an NIL. So that didn't change with us. And so we made Paris save all his money. So we didn't give it to him until he became a pro. So he saved all his money, and we utilized that as an opportunity to teach him about finances. And that's the direction that I wish a lot of parents would take, is that they will move forward to using it as a way to teach their children about finances, about taxes. And it's important to learn that now before they become a pro, when it's the real money, when they are a pro. And so I think there needs to be some more teaching and some more development in that area. The other piece of it too is also, even if some parents don't understand, just connecting with individuals that can teach them as well with the whole NIL and the money and the structure of that. And then also, I wish that NCAA did a better job in regulating this, because I think that's why we have the Wild Wild West right now, where it's just everyone is able to say, I'll offer you $1 million, I'll offer you $2 million. And honestly, you really don't know if that's real. You really don't know if that's real until you get to a certain institution. Some schools out there are offering funds like that, and the money's not there. And the families don't know until they're there that money does not exist. And so it's very important that people educate themselves. But I wish that the NCAA would have gotten ahead of this to have some structure in place. And so I don't know, maybe they'll move to an NFL model where they have like the rookie sliding scale. So I don't know if that is something that will come down the pike later. But I do think that some structure needs to be in place with the NCAA in regards to NIL.
So I wonder, you said something that I'm wondering if Duke Pettyjohn got that from you, because we asked him something similar and he said, I want the money that the kids are guaranteed or given through or earned through NIL, that the NCAA would force the kids to put in a trust. So I'm wondering if you had that conversation with him when he first was coming on campus to get that information from.
I'm not sure. So I'm not sure if we did or didn't, but no, I'm in agreement with that. I do believe that there should be some safeguards in place, because some of these young men may not, what if this is their opportunity to make that type of money? God forbid the young man gets hurt and can't play at the next level, that they should be able to have something in their account in the future. And so I do think some things need to be put in place so these kids will have resources much later. Because as you know, when you're 18 to 22 years old, your mindset with money is totally different.
Oh, yeah.
Once you're in your late 20s or early 30s, you look at things a little bit differently. And so I do believe that some things should be in place. And I do encourage parents. I share my story, and my husband shares our story. And we try to encourage parents, hey, get a trust, put your kids' money up. So we are preaching that constantly to parents, letting them know that's what we did. Because our job is to take care of our kids regardless of NIL. Our kid is going to get taken care of. So.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's been like part of the heart of this show, and definitely Pop's Pod, is that this NIL thing is so new. Like when a player goes to the NFL has been around for so long. So if they have any questions about money, about anything regarding it, they can always talk to people that have experienced it. Yes. And there's regulations they can look up. They can Google rules and whatnot.
Yes.
With NIL, there is no resource, right, to help guide these parents and even these players that this is the first time they ever dealt with this. No resource they can go to, minus knowing somebody that's been through it. And even if they do that, they go find somebody that's been through it. How do you know who you're finding did it the correct way, right? Because their son might still be in college. He might not even have completed and did this thing the whole way through. So that's one of the hearts of having people like you on, and definitely on Pop's Pod, Duke and Daniel. They are trying to educate and showing these parents and these players, hey, look, here's things to be careful for. Here's things we believe you and your parents should be doing, right? And here's going to be the outcome of that. So I agree with you. There needs to be something in place, at least for guidance. I mean, there is like zero guidance. It's just like this agent thing right now. Like you got so many street agents and everything. And we had Vernell Brown Jr., an NFL agent, and he's also a college football agent now. Yeah, we had him on the show the other day, and he brought it up perfectly. And this is, I took this from him earlier when I spoke. He said the NFL is a business. Right. So a lot of these NFL agents trying to come down to college are trying to treat it like a business. It's not, college is not a business. You're dealing with young men trying to grow into an NFL player. So you got to deal with all these other sides of emotions and decision making, and looking to the future of things. You know what I mean? Because some of them might not have a future in the NFL. By the time you're in the NFL, you're in the NFL. It is what it is. But when you're in college football, you're not guaranteed to go to the NFL. And, I like to see success stories, right? And it's just so wide open. I would love to see some parameters or some type of guidance.
We do need parameters. We do need guidance. But I can say this, that Coach Day, Gene Smith before his departure, and now our new AD Ross, they inform the parents. So there are meetings, just so you all know, there is conversations that is had with the young men and the parents as well. So they do educate. Of course, they can't make you do anything, but they do educate, they do inform. So Coach Day is great about sharing the information in regards to agents per se, financial advisors, and encouraging the young men to make great decisions with their finances. So I must say that Coach Day, and like I said, and Gene Smith before his departure, and our current AD Ross have done an amazing job with educating the parents, educating the young men. But again, it's their choice.
Yeah, and here's this another point to show how kind of crazy this is because we've always heard Ohio State has those resources that these players can rely on, but that's easy to do when they commit to you and they're your player. But what about all these players that have not picked a school yet and they're doing unofficials and going all over? Like they just don't have anywhere to go. You can't sit down with Ohio State and have those conversations because that conversation doesn't come until later on, until you're committed or you're on your official or something. So another point to show that there needs to be something done here. But
Dev, you just said something that right there just popped something in my head. How we had 0 transfers in this last spring portal of scholarship athletes. And it's because they're not having that conversation about NIL, which ensures that the players that are committing want to be here. So they're less likely to hit the portal. And I never thought about it until it just came out your mouth right there. Because I always was thinking, like, I know the coach is strong, but like, why would they not all of them just stay, And now it makes a whole lot of sense what you just said. I just wanted to add that.
And plus, Coach Day is very transparent with these young men. So they know exactly where they stand. Communication and talks are being had with the young men and their parents. And that's one thing I do appreciate about him is that there is clear communication.
Yeah, that's really cool. Monica, I could probably talk to you for another 6 to 12 more hours. I have questions for days, but we can't do that. We got some lives to live here. So hopefully we can get you back on another time. This has been absolutely amazing, very insightful. Do you have any closing statements or thoughts for Buckeye Nation? You want to tell the lunatic friends to calm down a little bit or anything? Or
you know what? Let me say this. I'm okay with passion. I love passion. And also understand, too, that these young men want to win. I think sometimes the fan base, I think we get so excited and then we get devastated when there's a loss, or if we do win a game and we didn't like beat them to a pulp, then all of a sudden there's a problem in the shoe. But just remember that these young men want to win and that they're giving it everything that they have. And that it's important just to put positive things in the atmosphere. And remember, this could be your son. I think sometimes people forget, like, this could be your son.
Right.
So you want to be able to put positive things in the atmosphere and also keep the boys in your prayers. Pray that they have an amazing season, that they're healthy, that they're whole, that they do great in the classroom as well. So that's what I want to encourage Buckeye Nation. Like I said, I love the passion. So I want to keep the passion. But just making sure that you remember that they are humans. So that's important.
Absolutely. Mello, I just want to thank you and just for coming on and being available to Buckeye Nation. You are heavily talked about in all the chats.
Thank you.
You're a blessing to Ohio State, to the fan base, to the parents, to the recruits, to Coach Day. You're heavily leaned upon. You're a big part of this. And thank you for sending Paris to our college, because he started something that's about to pick up back in this 26 class with elite O-line recruitment. So thank you for coming on, and God bless you.
God bless you guys too. Anytime.
Yeah, Monica, I would love to hear a conversation between you and Duke and Daniel over there on Pop's Pod about recruiting. So we'll definitely keep in touch with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Absolutely.
And God bless you. On that note,
you as well.
Go Buckeyes.
Go Bucks.
Ayo.